Hey everyone, happy college football. Welcome to Porcelain Picks. I'm your host, Andrew Fabian, and here we are, a Friday, beautiful football weather, entering a week 7 after a very up and down week 6. A lot of favorites, a lot of ranked teams going down, most notably Alabama to Vanderbilt. We've got a big slate of games to cover for you. Starting with tonight, we got one pick, and then a full slate tomorrow, which will be capped off by the Colorado-Kansas State game, but prefacing that will be obviously the biggest game of the day in Oregon hosting Ohio State. All right, so we have Porcelain Picks. Our record for you is 38-53 on the season. 6 weeks in. Plenty of season left, but we got a lot of work to do. We're going to get started this week with week 7. Big week that'll be in the green. We promise you that. Joey Mack has 3 picks, a little bit different this week. None of those 3 picks will be actually Mack games, but he's been consistent all season long. So let's see how that shakes out. Because we at Porcelain Picks are focused on bringing you the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. We'll jump into that Friday night action. Right now, just a couple hours away, we got Maryland hosting Northwestern in a blackout. Maryland is a big favorite in this game. It's about 11.5 points right now. Northwestern coming off that home defeat at the hands of Indiana, who is undefeated so far on the season. Maryland in the blackout, we expect them to get out to a fast start. And Joey Mack really loves this Maryland minus 6.5 first half pick. They're going to come off after a bye. Their crowd's going to be really into it. If Maryland has one thing going for it, that crowd really cares about these night games. Lock it, flush it, Maryland minus 6.5 first half. All right. We're going to jump to the Saturday portion of the slate. Noon, we've got Georgia Tech, who's a 4-point favorite at the time of this recording, at UNC. UNC started the year 3-0. They've since lost 3 consecutive games, some of those in embarrassing fashion, including that 70-50 loss at home to James Madison. On the Georgia Tech side, stringing together a decent season so far. Haynes King is a quarterback that I love. This guy is a dual threat. He's put together a good season so far. Georgia Tech coming in as a 4-point favorite at UNC. I think Georgia Tech gets the victory. I think they're going to win this game by about 10 points. Take Georgia Tech, minus 4, lock it, flush it. I think UNC, who started 3-0 now with 3-3, it's a throwaway year for these guys. They're going to continue to struggle this season. So take Georgia Tech. All right, let's go to Missouri at UMass. Missouri coming off that embarrassing defeat to Texas A&M. They lost by about 4 touchdowns in that game. They're 27.5-point favorites at 1-5 UMass. I think this is a gift from the gods in this game. Brady Cook is going to come back for redemption. This guy, look for him to put up 500-plus yards at UMass. UMass doesn't stand a chance in this game. I think Missouri's going to win this game by 40 points if they want to. Take Missou, minus 27.5, lock it, flush it. All right, UAB at Army. Army's a 26.5-point favorite. Last week, you had the Locksmiths, PTC, correctly picked a big Army victory for y'all. I picked wrong. I had Army minus 6.5 in that first quarter. They didn't do that, or minus 2.5 rather in that first quarter. They didn't do that. But I'm going to take Army in the first quarter again, hosting UAB. Army is minus 6.5. Remember, they've scored in 5 games. They've scored 5 touchdowns on their first possession. So I think that trend continues this week. Army's going to be up by 10 at the end of the first quarter. So lock that one and flush it. Move on. Clemson at Wake Forest. Wake Forest, a struggling team this year. They've been up and down. They're known to score some points, but will they score points against Clemson visiting? I don't think they will. They put up 6 points last week against Ole Miss, or a couple weeks back against Ole Miss. I think Clemson has a stronger defense than Ole Miss does. Right now, this spread is at 20.5 points in favor of Clemson. Over-under set at 62.5. I like the under 62.5. I think Clemson wins big. It's going to be something like 48-10. So take the under 62.5, lock it, flush it, and then take Clemson minus 20.5, lock it, flush it as they continue their quest for a college football playoff berth and an ACC championship berth. South Carolina at Alabama. Bama's a 21.5-point favorite. That's even money right now, so it's probably going to drop to 21 or 20.5. We're going to lock it in at 21.5. for the reason Kalen DeBoer is going to have these guys ready to play. You saw the emotion at the end of that game and that embarrassing loss to Vanderbilt. Vandy's got a good team this year, so not to give Alabama any excuses, but coming off that big win against Georgia, they were due for a let-down game. It's just a bummer for them. It was against Vanderbilt. South Carolina, they've been really, again, up and down. They got a big win against Kentucky, but they had a loss to Ole Miss, 27-3. Which team's going to show up for South Carolina? I think it's a bad spot for them, being that Bama is going to be angry in this game. They're going to come out for blood. Milroe is going to have a great game. This defense is going to be stout. Take Alabama, minus 21.5. Lock it, flush it in a 42-10 type game in favor of the Crimson Tide. All right. Washington at Iowa. So a big Big Ten matchup. We saw Washington defeat the Wolverines last week when Michigan traveled out to Washington. Iowa is a 2.5-point favorite at home in this game. They hung around a little bit with Ohio State last week, but were never going to put points on the board in that game. Caleb Dorsey is Iowa's running back. He's a great player. He didn't have much of a showing last week because Ohio State did a great job shutting them down and making them pass. I think Washington's going to struggle a little bit with them. I think Iowa's going to be able to move the football on offense. Points are going to be at a premium. It's about over under 41.5 right now. We're going to stay away from that because Iowa's been over in every game this year except for that game against Ohio State last week. Take the Hawkeyes, minus 2.5. Don't overthink it. They're just going to overpower Washington. This is a classic battle where Iowa's just going to pour it on and win this game in ugly fashion. It could be like a 19-16 type Iowa cover on this one. Lock it, flush it. We got the 3:30 slate. We'll kick this off with the Red River Shootout, a game between Texas and Oklahoma. It's typically a noon kickoff or 11 o'clock Central Time where this is hosted, but we got it at 3:30, so 2:30 local time. Quinn Ewers is back for the Texas Longhorns. They're number one in the country. They've got a lot of weapons. Isaiah Bond has been a great addition to this team this year. The defense has been stout. Oklahoma on their side of the football, a little different story. They've had some good wins this season, but they've got their backup quarterback, Michael Hawkins, who's been a good spark plug, but this guy's more of a dual threat, running type quarterback instead of throwing. He can sling the ball around, but he's not going to throw it quite as many times as Jackson Arnold did. So 2 wideouts are out for Oklahoma, so I'll get to that in a little bit, but I really love the under in this game. 48.5, it's even money right now, so we're going to take the under 48.5. Both teams have strong defenses, and again, Oklahoma, they're going to be running the football. Deion Burks and Jalil Farouk, 2 of the leading receivers for Oklahoma, are out. They've been hurt for the last couple weeks, so they just don't have the weapons that are going to put up points on Texas. I think this game's going to be back and forth on the ground. It's not going to be one of those barn burners that we're used to in the Red River Shootout. It's going to be a slugfest, and it's going to go under. Texas is a 14.5-point favorite. I lean towards Oklahoma, but we're not going to pick the spread. Just take the under, 48.5. Get your even money, lock it, flush it. All right. Penn State, minus 3.5, traveling across the country at USC. USC coming off that rough defeat against Minnesota. You could argue that the refs screwed the Trojans in this game, but we don't make excuses on this program. We're not going to allow the Trojans to make an excuse there. So Penn State, 3.5-point favorites. They're coming off a win last week where they underperformed against UCLA. They did give up a late touchdown and 2-point conversion when the game was no longer in doubt to make it 27-11. But in any event, they wouldn't have covered the spread. They do have Nicholas Singleton, who's expected to play tomorrow, their best offensive threat. He was out last week against UCLA. He's back against USC. That's good news for the Nittany Lions. This 2-headed attack of Katron Allen and Nick Singleton is going to really give USC fits as this game goes on. Their defensive tackles are the weak point of this defense, which is already, they're better than last year, but not a strong defense. On the USC side of the ball, their offensive line really struggled with Minnesota's pass rush. Miller Moss had a lot of pressure on him all game long, fewer than 3 seconds. He was slinging a lot of balls away, turning the ball over. Big reason why USC lost. Minnesota's D-line is nothing compared to Penn State's D-line. So I expect more of the same. I think Miller Moss is going to be under pressure, rendering those wide receiver weapons, and USC has a plenty. I think they're going to be rendered useless by the pressure Penn State gets on the quarterback. So I do like Penn State on paper. I like Penn State to win by 10 or more, even on the road here. But you have seen likely out there the record of Big Ten road teams who have had to travel 3 time zones away. It's something like 1-8 so far this year. Expect that to go to 2-8. Expect Penn State to cover. They're the better team. They're going to lean. It's going to be a running battle for them. Aller's going to have to remain without turnovers, and I think Penn State gets this victory and covers the 3.5-point spread. Defense travels. Nittany Lions traveled in on Thursday. I went to Penn State, so that's the disclaimer I like to drop there, but I'm usually a little harsher on the Nittany Lions and James Franklin. I like them to cover. Lock it, flush it, big victory against USC. All right, we're going to go back to Joey Mack, 2 non-Mac Maction picks, 2 locks here. Keep your ears open. Joey Mack's got it. All right, UCF -3 hosting Cincinnati. That's your pick. It's going to be a windy, rainy day there in Central Florida with the aftermath of the hurricane coming through. UCF coming off 2 losses, but they're back home and they're going to be grounding and pounding it against Cincinnati. On the Cincy side, the running backs are banged up. They're going to have a tougher time moving the football on Central Florida, so expect UCF -3, lock it, flush it. Third and final Joey Maction lock of the week, San Jose State at Colorado State, another non-MAC game. It's a pick 'em right now. It was +1.5 for Colorado State when Joey Mack took this. Take CSU, pick 'em, lock it, flush it. This is all about momentum. Colorado State had a great second half, narrowly being defeated by Oregon State in double overtime. San Jose State, a poor second half, had to escape against Nevada. So look for Colorado State to win at home, lock it, flush it. All right, we're back to the ACC. Cal, the Bears, coming off that horrifically blown game against the Miami Hurricanes last week, a game that we were all asleep for. They're traveling across the country to face the Pitt Panthers, who are undefeated. No one really expected that at this point in the season. Pitt's a 3-point favorite. Cal has obviously been tested with the traveling. They traveled at Auburn to open the year and defeated Auburn. We know that Auburn is in disarray and 2-4 this year, but still an impressive road victory against an SEC team. Pitt, on their end, they've got a steady passing attack. Eli Holstein, keep this guy's name in the back of your head as a Heisman dark horse if Pitt continues to win. Their schedule is pretty favorable this year. They obviously face Clemson later on in the year, which will be a good matchup, but look for Pitt to remain undefeated. Pitt -3, lock it, flush it. All right, back to the SEC. We got Mississippi State, who's 1-4 this season. Not a good season in Starkville. They traveled to Georgia. Georgia's 33.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 55.5. This is a mismatch. Right out of the gate, Mississippi State does not stand a chance. They lost big to Florida this year. They lost big to Toledo this year at home. Georgia's going to have no problem putting them away. It's all going to come down to whether Georgia's going to cover that 33.5-point spread. That's why we're going to take the first half spread. Georgia, -19.5. Lock it, flush it. Look for it to be 28-3, something like that. Easy cover on this first half spread. They'll put the backups in. They'll rest them up. They're not going to need them in the second half. I also like the under for that reason. I think Georgia -19.5. I don't think Mississippi State's going to be able to score on the Bulldogs. So take under 55.5. Lock it, flush it. That's 2 picks. We'll go 2-0 in that game. Let's go to the night games. All right. Ole Miss at LSU, keeping it in the SEC. LSU's a 3.5-point dog. Over under is 62.5 right now at the time of this recording. Ole Miss up and down, right? They've got some great weapons for Jackson Dart. On the LSU side, you got LSU has been performing very well since that loss to USC in week 1. Death Valley at night, I think, is going to be the difference. It's not every day LSU is an underdog at home under the lights in Death Valley. Brian Kelly is good in this spot. Say what you will about BK, but he's good as a dog. I think LSU wins this game outright. We're going to take LSU as a 3.5-point dog, take the money line, and we'll sort out the points. We'll sort out the units that we earn on that in the Monday show. But then take the under in this game, 62.5. Lock them, flush them. Ole Miss, they have Jackson Dart. They've got a lot of weapons. Their best weapon is Trey Harris. He's dealing with an Achilles injury. Ole Miss has also been in the 40s in total points for the game against Power 5 teams so far this year. So that's why we love the under in this game. LSU is going to win it. Lock them, flush them. Let's go. We're going to stay in the SEC. Last SEC battle, we got Florida at Tennessee, another night game. Under 57.5. and Florida plus 15 and a half, plus 15 at the time of this recording. Florida's got no pressure on them. We picked them money line against UCF last week. They're traveling to a tough environment in Tennessee at night. But Tennessee's been struggling as well on the offensive side of the football. Nico, will he bounce back? He's a true freshman. We're going to see how he comes in. He's got weapons banged up. Squirrel White will be out for this game. Brew McCoy, two of their best receivers are out. This is going to fall onto Dylan Sampson's shoulders, a very formidable running back for the Vols. But Florida, they've got Graham Mertz matched up. He's in rhythm now. He's got his biggest weapon in Eugene Wilson likely coming back on the outside. He'll be the best wide receiver in this game. Tennessee's weak point is their secondary. So Florida's going to be able to move the football, I think. But I do look at this being a lower scoring game. I think Tennessee's going to win this one, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be something like 28-21 or 28-24. So take Florida plus 15 and take the under 57.5. Lock them both, flush them both. All right. Big 12 action, Iowa State at West Virginia. Iowa State, another undefeated team, similar to Pitt, but a little bit more expected to be undefeated at this point in the season. They're 11th in the country. This is a big pressure game for Rocco Beck, their quarterback. He's had a great season so far. They've had a couple close calls, but they've been able to remain unscathed. West Virginia, sneaky good team so far this year. They got beat up by Penn State in week 1. That's why they dropped off the map a little bit when people were calling for that upset in week 1. West Virginia's 3.5-point favorite here at home. I'm going to actually take West Virginia at a dog. I'll take West Virginia plus 3.5. Lock it, flush it. I think they're going to win this game, but I'm going to take the spread in this one for you. All right. Biggest game of the night, Ohio State at Oregon. What's going to happen here? Buckeyes traveling for the first time, their first true road test. Going out to Autzen Stadium at night. Great environment there. You got Dylan Gabriel versus Will Howard. Both of these quarterbacks have been battle-tested in the past. Will Howard has played in the Big 12 championship game. Dylan Gabriel obviously has played in the Red River Shootout in the past, and he's had some success there beating a Texas team last year. So what's going to happen in this game? I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think it's certain that we're going to get a good matchup here. The Ducks right now are plus 3.5. I like Oregon in this game. I think they're going to win outright. But even if it's a 27-24 type victory for Ohio State, Oregon's going to cover in this game. Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, Jeremiah Smith, those guys are all going to go out there and get their yardage for Ohio State. But take the Ducks. I like their weapons on the outside as well. I think Deontay Thornton has a big game here if he does suit up. Take Oregon, plus 3.5 with Ohio State traveling. Lock it, flush it. Last game, and kind of the goofiest bet that I'm going to make here, Kansas State at Colorado. So Dion, Coach Prime, they're going for 5-1. They'd be ranked if they win this game. They're against Kansas State, who I picked to win the Big 12. That's probably not going to happen, but you never know how the season will shake out. The bet in this game, Colorado plus 1.5 in the fourth quarter. So that's just the fourth quarter plus 1.5. Stick with me here. I think Shadur is going to continue to pass the ball, whether they're in front or behind. I think they'll be behind going into the fourth quarter, and they'll be whipping the ball around to their weapons. And look for Colorado to win that fourth quarter. Lock it, flush it. All right, you stuck with us for 18 minutes. Stamp the subscribe. Continue to give us feedback in the comments. What do you agree with? What did we get wrong? What do you expect from us? Let's do this. It's week 7 action. For Joey Mack, I'm Andrew Fabian at Porcelain Picks. You know we're here to deliver the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. Happy college football, everyone. Enjoy a beautiful Saturday.